Because if that bus door had have opened, this man would be dead right now. He would be in a box and I would be in a cell, and we would not have this great fight ahead of us.
Starting with number 12, Timothée Chalamet, whose decision to trash ballet and opera would come back to haunt him at the worst possible moment.
And I don't want to be working in ballet or opera or, things where it's like, hey, keep this thing alive, even though no one cares about this anymore.
He didn't realize, but he just brushed off two communities that care a lot more than he thinks. Within hours, the clip is everywhere. The Royal Opera House in London shares footage of packed shows. The Metropolitan Opera points out they're filling thousands of seats every night. Ballet dancers start posting their own videos.
Ballet and opera aren't niche hobbies people opt out of for fame. They're disciplines you can only enter if you have the rare ability for them.
We don't have the aid of second takes, edits, stunts, filters, makeup.
But there's no response from his team, and the moment just passes as awards season keeps going. By the time the Oscars come around in 2026, he's still the frontrunner for Best Actor, sitting in the audience looking confident, like he knows how this is supposed to end.
Security is extremely tight tonight. I just gotta mention that, yeah. I'm told there's concerns about attacks from both the opera and ballet communities.
Everyone laughs, and when the camera lands on Timothée, his smile dips for a second before he pulls it back. A little later, when they get to Best Actor, there's that usual pause before the name is read and it's not him. Number 11. Prince Andrew, whose friendship with a convicted predator would strip him of everything except his last name. For decades, Prince Andrew has enjoyed the privileges of royalty without much scrutiny. Patronages, military titles, public appearances, all of it funded by taxpayers. That only changed once the Jeffrey Epstein scandal blew open and Andrew's name kept coming up. There's a photograph of him with Virginia Giuffre, who accuses him of abuse when she was 17. Flight logs come out and he's left with questions he can't really explain. In 2019, the BBC convinced him to sit down for an interview. His team thinks this will clear things up, but it does the opposite.
And did you trust him?
Yes, I think I probably did, but again, I don't go into a friendship looking for the wrong thing.
The interview quickly becomes a lesson in what not to do. He leans on strange explanations. Pizza Express saying he couldn't sweat and never really shows any empathy for the victims. People watching couldn't believe what they were hearing. I've never seen someone destroy their own reputation this efficiently. Within days, he steps back from royal duties. His patronages are taken away. His military roles quietly disappear, and he later settles Giuffre's case without admitting liability, reportedly paying millions. And even then, it doesn't end there. In 2026, UK authorities charged him with misconduct in public office, and the palace stripped away what little he had left of his titles.
Say Prince Andrew will now be known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor.
Number 10, Conor McGregor, whose repeated violence turned him from champion to liability. Conor McGregor made his name talking trash and backing it up in the octagon. With his charm, sharp suits, and flashy lifestyle, he quickly became MMA's biggest crossover star. But the trash talk always pushed boundaries, and in April 2018, it spilled over into real violence when he and his entourage attacked a bus carrying UFC fighters at a media event in Brooklyn. He throws a dolly through a window, injuring multiple people and forcing fights to be canceled.
Because if that bus door had have opened, this man would be dead right now. He would be in a box and I would be in a cell, and we would not have this great fight ahead of us.
McGregor takes a plea deal and does community service, and because he still draws crowds, the UFC brings him back. But the trouble doesn't really stop, with more incidents like bar fights and assault allegations piling up over time. In 2024, an Irish high court orders him to pay nearly €250,000 in damages to a woman who accused him of sexual assault in a Dublin hotel. Where I come from and where I grew up, you had to be aware. You had to be able to defend yourselves. As that happens, his fight record starts to slip, endorsements begin to fall away, and the focus around him slowly changes. Number 9, Lance Armstrong, whose confession couldn't undo decades of lies. Lance Armstrong won the Tour de France 7 times between 1999 and 2005. He had beaten cancer, became an American hero, and inspired millions. Everyone saw saw the success, but not what was behind it. For years, doping rumors follow him. He denied it every time, attacked anyone who accused him, and said critics were just jealous. In 2012, the US Anti-Doping Agency released a report showing Armstrong at the center of a doping program that included teammates, doctors, and staff. The evidence left no doubt. He didn't fight the findings.
The disgraced American cyclist Lance Armstrong has been stripped of all 7 of his Tour de France titles and banned from cycling for life.
In 2013, he sat down with Oprah to address the situation publicly for the first time.
Yes or no? Did you ever take banned substances to enhance your cycling performance?
Yes.
He admits it, but it doesn't feel like a real confession. He tries to make it sound like he had no choice, like everyone else was doing it too, and most people aren't buying it. Number 8, Kanye West, whose anti-Semitic rants cost him over $1 billion in a single year. He spent 2 decades convincing the world he was untouchable. No matter what he said or did, there were never real consequences. But in 2022, he crosses a line that even his most loyal defenders can't ignore. He starts posting conspiracy theories about Jewish people controlling the media, praises Hitler, and appears on podcasts spreading anti-Semitic ideas lifted straight from hate forums. Corporate partners start bailing immediately. Adidas terminated their Yeezy deal, which alone was worth hundreds of millions. Balenciaga cuts ties, and even his talent agency drops him. Within months, Forbes estimates his net worth has dropped from $2 billion to around $400 million. Kanye tries to frame it as proof of a conspiracy, but the math is simple. He said horrific things and people stopped wanting to do business with him. Number 7, Kevin Spacey, whose response to the first allegation made everything worse.
Kevin Spacey made a sexual advance towards him when he was just 14 years old. Rapp saying that in 1986, while both he and Spacey were working on Broadway, Spacey, who was then 26 years old, invited Rapp to a party at his apartment, and that at the end of the night, after everyone else had left, tried to seduce him in his bedroom.
Spacey responds almost immediately, but it only makes things worse. He says he doesn't remember the encounter and apologizes if it happened, then in the same statement publicly comes out as gay. The reaction is brutal, with many criticizing him for tying a serious allegation to his coming out. As more accusers come forward and investigations begin, the consequences follow quickly. He's removed from projects mid-production, replaced in a film that had already been shot, and written out of House of Cards. His mainstream Hollywood career ends almost overnight. Spacey has won some legal battles since then, but his occasional videos and public statements haven't really changed how he's seen. Number 6, James Corden, whose restaurant ban exposed the gap between his public persona and private behavior. For years, James Corden sells himself as the friendly guy with carpool karaoke and silly sketches, always smiling and upbeat. Everyone saw that version of him. But behind the scenes, it was a different story. A 2019 Reddit AMA turns into a roast session, with users sharing stories of dismissive, rude interactions. People in the industry said he could be demanding and condescending to staff. Then, in October 2022, the owner of Balthazar, a high-end New York restaurant, went public with their story. James Corden is accused of being abusive to servers over a food complaint. The owner bans him from the restaurant entirely and posts about it on Instagram. The internet blew up because this wasn't just a rumor anymore, and Corden tried to laugh it off on his talk show.
The restaurant manager and the server, they were lovely. They were lovely. They brought out 4 glasses of champagne as an apology, but we were like, that's not necessary. We don't need it.
The ban was lifted, but opinions didn't change. Number 5, Russell Brand, whose decades of whispered accusations finally became criminal charges. He built his career on being provocative, leaning into a chaotic anything-goes persona, and his past was always part of that image. That changed in September 2023 when The Times, The Sunday Times, and Channel 4 published a joint investigation in which multiple women accused him of sexual assault and abusive behavior over several years. Just before it went live, Brand posted a video denying everything and framing it as a coordinated attack. And while his followers rallied behind him, the accusations didn't fade.
This year, Russell Brand, the comedian and actor, was charged with 5 counts in relation to 4 alleged victims.
By 2025, the situation had escalated into criminal charges tied to alleged sexual offenses, leaving Brand, who had spent years presenting himself as someone exposed exposing corruption, now facing serious allegations himself. Number 4, Lizzo, whose empowerment brand collapsed the moment her former employees started talking. Lizzo built an empire on body positivity and self-love, but in August 2023, 3 of Lizzo's former backup dancers filed a lawsuit in Los Angeles. The allegations were serious. They claimed a hostile work environment, sexual harassment, and racial and religious harassment. The detail that really made headlines, one dancer said Lizzo pressured her to touch nude performers at a club in Amsterdam, and she feared what would happen if she said no. Another dancer alleged Lizzo criticized her weight before letting her go.
I know it's alarming to hear that Lizzo, a plus-size woman who preaches body positivity, would be fatphobic, essentially.
The irony was impossible to miss. The woman who built a career telling people to love themselves was now accused of fat-shaming her own dancers. Lizzo denied the allegations, saying people were overreacting, and her lawyers dismissed them as the complaints of disgruntled former employees. Still, the story stuck and the damage was already done. The lawsuits are still going, but her reputation, once untouchable, has taken a serious hit. Number 3, Sean Diddy Combs, whose federal conviction ended an empire built on exploitation.
Music mogul Sean Diddy Combs facing more time behind bars. His release date pushed back to June of 2028 instead of May of that same year. The news coming after reports of Combs drinking in prison, something he denies, after he was accepted into a rehab program in prison that could have reduced his sentence by up to a year.
From Puff Daddy to Diddy, Sean Combs spent decades at the top of hip-hop, building an image that felt untouchable. But there were always stories in the background, people who felt used, others who described controlling behavior, women who stayed quiet because they didn't think anyone would believe them. In 2024, it all caught up. Federal agents raided his properties and lawsuits followed, accusing him of abuse and coercion going back years. In July 2025, a federal jury in New York convicts him on 2 counts of transporting people across state lines for prostitution. He's cleared of the more serious racketeering and trafficking charges, but the convictions still carry weight.
Mogul Sean Diddy Combs was just sentenced to more than 4 years in prison. The 55-year-old was convicted back in July on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution.
The judge hands down a 50-month sentence, just over 4 years. Prosecutors had pushed for 11, while the defense pointed to addiction and past trauma. Number 2, Chevy Chase, whose decades of cruelty caught up with him on Community. Chevy Chase had a reputation for being difficult, going all the way back to the 1970s. People from Saturday Night Live described him as arrogant and hard to work with, but he kept getting hired because he was talented enough that people tolerated him. In 2009, Community gave him a career boost. He played Pierce Hawthorne, an older, out-of-touch character who often felt uncomfortably close to how people describe Chase in real life.
Don't shoot me.
Great. Now shoot him.
Sure, shoot me. You'd certainly be doing Jeff Winger a big favor.
As the seasons went on, though, things started to break down. There were clashes with the showrunner, tension with the cast, and reports of him being difficult on set. By 2012, it boiled over during an argument when he used a racial slur while trying to make a point about the kind of lines the show wouldn't let him say.
Also a Toastmaster, so perhaps I should do the introduction.
Definitely.
All right, you already know Brittles.
Britta?
Abed the Arab. Is that inappropriate?
Sure.
Otherwise, he refuses.
The cast receives an apology, but Chase is let go after season 4. Since then, his work has been inconsistent, and whenever people look back on his career, the same question keeps coming up: how much talent really excuses that kind of behavior? Number 1. TJ Miller, whose string of incidents destroyed a promising career. With Silicon Valley, Deadpool, and hosting gigs all keeping him in the spotlight, and he came across as the kind of funny guy people just liked being around. But it didn't take long for things to change. In 2016, he's charged after a physical altercation with an Uber driver over political disagreements. Reports from the Silicon Valley set describe him as difficult, frequently intoxicated, creating tension with cast and crew.
Was I brutally assaulted? Yes. Did Gavin Belson here have anything to do with it? Unclear. All I know is that the rumor that TechCrunch is all abuzz about is unproven.
He eventually leaves the show, and around the same time, an old college accusation resurfaces with a woman claiming he sexually assaulted her years earlier, something Miller denies, calling it vindictive. Then in 2018, he's arrested for calling in a false threat about a train.
TJ Miller is under arrest, accused of calling in a fake
bomb threat. Prosecutors say he knowingly made a hoax report, while Miller later points to mental health struggles. By then, it's no longer about a single incident, but a pattern, and over time, the calls from Hollywood start to fade.